The crystalline corridors of the Grand Archives pulsed with a soft azure glow as Zixtal moved through them, their translucent appendages carefully manipulating the ancient holographic interfaces. Millions of records from countless civilizations floated around them like distant stars, each containing fragments of knowledge collected across 20,000 years of galactic history. Display sequence Theta 9. Temporal filter set to pre-collective era, Zixtal commanded, their neural patterns rippling through the archive systems. The surrounding data streams shifted, coalescing into new configurations. Most records faded away, leaving only the oldest and most mysterious fragments. 3 solar cycles of continuous research had led to this moment. The Council of Minds had entrusted Zixtal with finding a solution to the Nexus threat. And now, hidden in these ancient records, they believed they had found it. The holograms shifted again, revealing text in an ancient script. The weapons that dream. Zixtal's consciousness expanded with excitement, causing the nearby crystals to resonate in harmony. The text originated from the precursor archives, dated to over 15,000 years ago. Begin translation sequence, they commanded. The archives systems hummed, converting the ancient symbols into modern collective script. Words materialized in the air. They called themselves human. They emerged from a world of constant change, shaped by endless cycles of ice and fire. Their minds evolved to see patterns where none existed, to create solutions that defied natural law. They were not the strongest, the fastest, or the most advanced, but they were the most dangerous. Zixtal absorbed each word carefully. The precursors rarely documented other species with such detail, or such warning. The text continued. Their true power lay not in their technology, but in their ability to adapt and innovate at impossible speeds. Where other species took millennia to advance, they achieved the same progress in centuries. Where others saw limits, they saw challenges. Where we saw perfection, they saw room for improvement. The holographic display flickered, showing fragments of data about human achievements. Each example defied conventional wisdom. Primitive humans defeating superior forces through unexpected strategies, solving mathematical problems through intuitive leaps, creating art that moved even the most logical species to emotional responses. Governor Zixtal, a voice interrupted. A junior researcher, Pelth, materialized in the archive chamber. The council requests an immediate update on your findings. Zixtal's outer membrane rippled with anticipation. Tell them I have found what we need. The answer was never a weapon. It was a species. A species? Pelth's confusion manifested as discord in their crystalline structure. The Nexus consumes entire star systems. How could a single species help us? Zixtal manipulated the holographic controls, bringing up more records. Because this species was sealed away by the combined efforts of 17 advanced civilizations. Not because they were violent or aggressive, but because they were unpredictable. They called them the weapons that dream, because humans could imagine possibilities that no other species could conceive. The chamber filled with new holograms, star charts, coordinates, and encrypted location data. Zixtal had spent months decoding them, tracking the path of humanity's exodus from known space. The precursors feared them because humans could understand and improve upon any technology they encountered. They could adapt to any environment, overcome any obstacle, and most importantly, they could innovate in ways that even their creators couldn't predict. Pelth absorbed this information, their crystalline form shimmering with concern. And you believe these humans could help us against the Nexus. The Nexus operates on pure logic, consuming systems through predictable patterns. But humans, Zixtal paused, their form glowing brighter with excitement. Humans are anything but predictable. I found their location, a massive stasis facility hidden in dark space. The Council must approve an expedition immediately. As Pelth departed to relay the message, Zixtal turned back to the ancient records. One final line of text glowed before them. Beware what you awaken, for humans do not think as we think. They do not dream as we dream. and once awakened, they cannot be contained again. The Starweaver emerged from its quantum leap at the edge of dark space, its crystalline hull refracting the distant starlight. Zixtal stood at the observation deck, their forms shimmering with anticipation as they gazed into the void where no stars shone. According to the ancient coordinates, they had arrived at their destination, yet initial scans showed nothing but empty space. "Energy anomalies detected," announced Linva, their sensor specialist. "The readings match no known signatures in our database." Zixtal moved to the central console, their appendages dancing across the holographic controls. "Enhance the quantum spectrum analysis. The facility must be here." The precursor records were exact. The ship's sensors probed deeper into the darkness, sending out waves of exotic particles. Suddenly, the void rippled like disturbed water. A massive structure began to materialize before them, its surface drinking in light rather than reflecting it. "Impossible," whispered Linva. "It's bigger than a small moon." The artificial planetoid hung in space, its surface a complex maze of geometric patterns that seemed to shift and change as they watched. No light escaped its surface, yet somehow it gave the impression of movement, of life, of waiting. "Take us closer," Zixtal commanded. "Prepare the landing party." As the Starweaver approached, ancient defense systems stirred to life. Symbols appeared on the planetoid surface, cycling through thousands of languages before settling on modern collective script. "The dreamers lie within. Approach with caution." The landing party consisted of Zixtal, Linva, and 3 security specialists. Their shuttle passed through an opening that appeared in the planetoid surface, leading them into a vast docking chamber. The facility's internal lighting activated, revealing walls that pulsed with bioluminescent patterns. The architecture, Linva observed, their crystalline form vibrating with excitement. "It's adaptive. The entire structure is responding to our presence." They moved deeper into the facility, following pathways that seemed to form before them and dissolve in their wake. The air grew thick with the weight of age and responsibility. Each chamber they passed contained rows upon rows of stasis pods, stretching far beyond what their eyes could see. "Life signs detected," announced one of the security specialists. "Millions of them, all in suspended animation." Zixtal approached the nearest pod. Its surface was perfectly transparent, revealing the figure within. A human, preserved in a state of ageless sleep. Data streams flickered across the pod's surface, monitoring every aspect of its occupant's existence. Suddenly, the air shimmered and a holographic figure materialized before them. Unlike the simple data projections they were used to, this one possessed an uncanny presence. The facility's eye had awakened. "You stand before the legacy of humanity," it announced, its form shifting between different species as it spoke. "I am the guardian, tasked with their preservation. State your purpose." Zixtal stepped forward. "We come seeking aid. The galaxy faces a threat that could destroy all life as we know it." "Many have come seeking weapons," the guardian responded. "Many have asked to wake the dreamers. All have been denied." "We don't seek weapons," Zixtal insisted. "We seek understanding. The Nexus consumes entire systems, and our greatest minds cannot predict its patterns or stop its advance. The records speak of humanity's ability to see solutions where others see only impossibility." The Guardian's form stabilized, taking on an appearance that combined elements of all known sentient species. "You speak of humanity's greatest gift and their greatest burden. Their minds work in ways that no other species has replicated. But awakening them carries risks beyond your comprehension." "What risks?" Linva asked. "They cannot be unchanged by time," the Guardian answered. "When they wake, they will face a galaxy transformed. Their worlds are gone, their civilizations dust. The species that feared them have long since vanished. And yet, their capacity for adaptation, for creation and change, that remains. Are you prepared for what that means?" Before Zixtal could respond, emergency signals flashed through their neural network. The security team's leader communicated urgently. Multiple quantum ruptures detected. Nexus vessels approaching. They found us. Emergency protocol initiated. The Guardian announced as warning signals pulsed through the facility. Stasis Pod 47 Alpha preparing for revival sequence. Zixtal watched in fascination as one of the countless pods began to glow with increasing intensity. The preservation fluid within shifted from crystal clear to a soft, bioluminescent blue. The human inside, a female according to the pod's data stream, showed the first signs of consciousness in 15,000 years. Why this one? Linva asked, their crystalline form vibrating with nervous energy. Sarah Chen, the Guardian, responded, historian, linguist, and keeper of humanity's final memories. If you seek understanding, she will provide it. The pod's surface dissolved like morning mist, releasing its occupant. Sarah Chen opened her eyes to a world of impossible colors and beings of living crystal. Her first breath in millennia came as a soft gasp, followed by words in an ancient language that the facility immediately translated. The dreams, they were so long. Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. Her dark eyes focused on the aliens before her, showing curiosity rather than fear. You're not like the others. Not like those who came before. Zixtal moved forward, their form dimmed to avoid overwhelming her adjusting vision. I am Zixtal of the Collective Minds. We found this facility using records from the precursor archives. Sarah sat up slowly, her movements careful but precise. The medical interfaces in the chamber reported her vital signs, strengthening with remarkable speed. The precursors, they called us weapons, didn't they? That's why you're here. We seek aid against a grave threat, Zixtal confirmed. But your kind's designation as weapons, we suspect there's more to that story. A sad smile crossed Sarah's face. There always is. She stood, accepting a synthesized garment from an automated attendant. Humanity wasn't sealed away because we were weapons. We chose this path ourselves. The chamber fell silent save for the distant hum of the facility systems. Even the Guardian seemed to wait with unusual stillness. The elder species feared us, Sarah continued, her voice growing stronger. Not because we were violent, though we could be, but because we were unpredictable. We advanced too quickly, adapted too readily, imagined too freely. Where they saw boundaries, we saw doorways. Where they found limits, we found inspiration. She walked to a nearby window, gazing out at the endless rows of stasis pods. They gave us a choice: accept restrictions on our development or face extinction. But we found a third option. We would preserve ourselves, sleep through the age of fear, and wait for a time when the galaxy was ready for change. And now that time has come, Zixtal said, understanding dawning in their consciousness. The Nexus threatens all life in the galaxy. Their patterns consume entire systems, and we cannot predict their movements or counter their strategies. Sarah turned back to face them, her expression thoughtful. The Nexus, show me. Linva projected a holographic display of the void ships approaching the facility. Sarah studied them with intense focus, her mind seemingly unaffected by millennia of sleep. Interesting, she murmured. Their ship's architecture suggests a hive consciousness operating on pure logic. Predictable if you understand their base assumptions. She pointed to specific features of the vessels. See these patterns. They're not just design choices. They're physical manifestations of their thought processes. Zixtal's form brightened with surprise. You can deduce their psychology from their ship design. Humans are pattern seekers, Sarah explained. We see connections others miss because we're willing to make intuitive leaps. It's what made us dangerous in the past. It's what might save us all now. A distant rumble shook the facility. The Nexus ships had begun their approach. We don't have much time, Sarah said, her voice taking on a tone of command that transcended the millennia. Wake up the others. We're going to need engineers, tacticians, and dreamers. Lots of dreamers. She smiled, and for a moment, Zixtal understood why ancient species had both feared and revered humanity. It's time to show the galaxy what weapons that dream can really do. The first blast from the Nexus ships shook the facility's foundations. Sarah Chen sprinted through crystalline corridors alongside Zixtal, her bare feet silent against the living crystal floor. 15,000 years of suspended animation hadn't dulled her reflexes. If anything, the preservation process had enhanced them. "Access terminal," she called out, skidding to a stop before a pulsing interface. Her fingers danced across the holographic controls as if she used them all her life. "Guardian, give me facility schematics." Now, the AI materialized beside her. The defense systems are 15,000 years old. They were never designed to. They were designed by humans. Sarah interrupted, her eyes scanning the data streams. "Which means they were designed to be modified." "Zixtal, your crystalline technology. It responds to consciousness patterns, doesn't it?" The alien researcher's form brightened with surprise. "Yes, but how did you?" "The way your bodies pulse with your thoughts. The facility's reactions to your presence. It's all based on consciousness-responsive crystalline matrices." Her fingers flew faster across the interface. "We can use that. Guardian, initiate emergency protocols Delta 7 through 12. Warning klaxons blared as another blast rocked the structure. Linva's voice echoed through the communication network. 3 Nexus vessels have breached the outer defensive perimeter. Reroute power from the inactive stasis pods to the shield grid," Sarah commanded. "Zixtal, I need your help. Connect with the facility systems. Let it read your consciousness patterns." Understanding dawned in Zixtal's crystalline form. They pressed their appendages to the interface, establishing a direct neural connection. The facility's walls began to pulse in rhythm with their thoughts. "Perfect," Sarah whispered. Her hands became a blur of motion across the controls. "The Nexus ships operate on pure logic. But consciousness is anything but logical. We're going to give them something they can't predict." The facility's defensive systems transformed under her guidance. Crystalline structures that had remained dormant for millennia awakened, but not as simple shields or weapons. They became synaptic networks, mimicking the chaos and creativity of organic thought patterns. "Multiple hull breaches detected," Linva reported. "The Nexus are sending boarding parties." Sarah's expression hardened. "Time for Phase 2. Guardian, activate the maintenance drones. All of them." Thousands of small robots emerged from hidden compartments, their simple programming suddenly augmented by the facility's consciousness-infused systems. Under Sarah's direction, they began transforming themselves, combining and reconfiguring in ways their original designers never imagined. "Remember," she told the drones through the facility's network, "you don't have to be stronger than the Nexus. You just have to be more unpredictable." The first wave of Nexus boarders encountered not organized resistance, but chaos incarnate. Maintenance drones transformed into living artwork, broadcasting consciousness patterns that disrupted the Nexus's hive mind logic. Crystalline corridors shifted and changed, turning the facility into an ever-evolving maze. "They're retreating from Section 7. Linva's voice carried both shock and awe. "Their patterns. They're breaking down." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. "Of course they are. They operate on prediction and probability. We're giving them neither." She turned to Zixtal, who watched her with newfound understanding. "This is why they feared us, you know. Not because we were stronger or smarter, but because we could do this. Take existing rules and bend them into new shapes." Through the facility's sensors, they watched the Nexus ships withdraw, their perfect formations shattered by the unexpected resistance. But Sarah's expression remained serious. "This was just a scouting party," she said, already moving to another terminal. "They'll be back with a larger force. We need to wake the others. Engineers, tacticians, artists. The Nexus thinks in straight lines. We need dreamers who can think in spirals." She paused, looking at the rows of stasis pods visible through a nearby window. "And Zixtal, thank you for trusting me. Most species run when they see how quickly we adapt. You stayed. That makes you different from those who sealed us away. The facility's lights stabilized, and in their glow, Zixtal saw not a weapon, but a mind that could reshape reality itself. Perhaps that was what the ancient records had truly meant, not that humans were weapons, but that they were catalysts for change in a universe desperate for evolution. Revival sequence initiated for pods 47 Beta through 47 Zeta. The Guardian announced as 5 more stasis chambers hummed to life. Sarah Chen stood beside Zixtal, her dark eyes fixed on the swirling preservation fluid as it changed from crystal clear to luminescent blue. "Who are they?" Linva asked, their crystalline form shimmering with anticipation. "The best minds humanity had to offer," Sarah replied. "When we chose preservation, we arranged our pods in strategic groups, teams that could work together, innovate together, dream together." The first pod dissolved its barrier. Marcus Wong emerged, tactical specialist and strategic innovator. His eyes snapped open with immediate awareness, taking in the crystalline aliens and the facility's transformed architecture without a trace of surprise. "Status report," he asked, accepting the synthesized uniform from a drone. "Nexus incursion repelled but returning with reinforcements," Sarah responded. "We have approximately 6 hours to prepare." The second pod released Dr. Elena Rodriguez, her mind already racing with possibilities as she studied the facility's biocrystalline interfaces. "These systems, they're like nothing I've ever seen. The potential for integration with human neural patterns is extraordinary." 3 more pods released their occupants. Dr. James Chen, quantum mechanics theorist, Maya Patel, systems architect, and Dr. David Kim, xenobiologist. Each awakened with the same rapid adaptation Sarah had shown, their minds bridging 15,000 years in moments. "The facility's defense grid needs a complete overhaul," Maya announced, already interfacing with the central systems. "We can use the crystalline architecture as a base for something new." Elena joined her at the console. "If we combine it with human neural mapping." "Sarah, remember the consciousness transfer experiments. Theoretical models only," Sarah cautioned. "We never had time to test them before the preservation." "We have time now," Elena insisted, her fingers flying across the holographic controls. "The collective's crystalline technology is perfect for this. We can turn the entire facility into a neural network that learns and adapts like a human mind." Zixtal watched in amazement as the humans fell into seamless cooperation. Marcus and Maya redesigned the facility's defensive layouts, while Elena and David explored the potential of human crystal integration. James immersed himself in quantum calculations, searching for ways to predict and counter the Nexus's void drive technology. "Impossible," Linva whispered as new innovations emerged every minute. "They've been awake less than an hour." "That's the thing about humans," Sarah said with a slight smile. "We don't believe in impossible. We see it as a challenge." The facility transformed around them. Crystalline walls pulsed with human thought patterns, learning and growing. Defense systems evolved beyond their original parameters, incorporating concepts that bridged organic and artificial intelligence. "The Nexus operates on pure logic," Marcus explained, pointing to a tactical display. "Their movements follow mathematical patterns, but we'll give them something mathematics can't predict: human intuition enhanced by crystalline computing." Elena's voice carried excitement as she worked. "The crystal matrices are accepting human neural patterns better than expected. It's like they were waiting for minds that could push their boundaries." "Look at this," David called out, studying biological readings. "The preservation process didn't just preserve us. It enhanced our neural plasticity. We're adapting faster than we could before." Sarah turned to Zixtal, who had been quietly observing. "Now you understand. We weren't sealed away because we were weapons. We were sealed away because we could turn anything into a tool for change. The ancient species feared that kind of unlimited potential." The facility shuddered as its systems incorporated more human innovations. Walls rippled like water, defense grids rewrote themselves, and monitoring systems expanded beyond normal space-time limitations. 4 hours until the Nexus returns, Marcus announced. We'll be ready, but we'll need more dreamers. Sarah nodded, approaching another bank of stasis pods. Time to wake up the artists, the poets, the musicians. The Nexus thinks they understand patterns. Let's show them what human creativity really means. Around them, 15,000 years of human potential continued to unfold, reshaping reality one impossible idea at a time. The facility's central chamber had transformed into something entirely new. Holographic star maps merged with abstract art projections, while crystalline surfaces rippled with patterns that bridged mathematics and music. More humans had awakened. Artists, composers, theoretical physicists, and their combined creativity reshaped reality itself. Zixtal found Sarah Chen in what had once been a simple monitoring station. Now it resembled a three-dimensional symphony, data streams flowing like musical notes through space. Beside her, composer Michelle Zhang conducted an orchestra of information, her hands weaving sensor data into harmonious patterns. The Nexus ships respond to gravitational frequencies, Michelle explained, never pausing her movements. We're composing countermelodies in space-time. When they return, their void drives will face music they've never imagined. Dr. Rodriguez appeared through a shifting wall, her eyes bright with discovery. The neural integration is exceeding all projections. The facility doesn't just respond to our thoughts anymore. It anticipates them. Like partnership dancing, Sarah said, watching the facility's systems pulse in rhythm with human innovation. Each partner learning to read the other's movements before they happen. Zixtal's crystalline form shimmered with understanding. You're teaching it to dream. More than that, Marcus Wong called from his tactical station. We're teaching it to imagine. Look at this. He gestured to a combat simulation where defense drones moved in impossible patterns. Traditional tactics follow logical progressions, but we're implementing what we call creative response theory. The simulation showed drones splitting into fractal patterns, each fragment carrying a piece of human consciousness. The Nexus ships in the simulation faltered, their perfect formations breaking against unpredictable waves of human thought. It's beautiful, Linvo whispered, their form resonating with the harmonic patterns Michelle had woven into the facility sensors. Beauty is a weapon too, said newly awakened artist Jun Park, his digital sculptures flowing through the chamber like living things. The Nexus understands efficiency. They don't understand why someone would add an unnecessary flourish to a design. They don't understand art. Or jokes, added Dr. Kim, monitoring the biological interfaces, or metaphors or dreams, or any of the wonderful illogical things that make us human. Sarah moved through the chamber, touching interfaces here and there, adding her own patterns to the growing symphony of human innovation. The ancient species thought they were protecting the galaxy by sealing us away. They never considered that our chaos might someday be exactly what the universe needed. The facility shuddered as another system integrated with human consciousness. Through the windows, they could see the outer hull transforming, developing patterns that seemed to bend light itself. 3 hours until the Nexus returns, Marcus announced. Our first test will be their scout ship's targeting systems. They rely on predictive algorithms, so we're giving them poetry instead of mathematics. Michelle's hands danced through the air, adjusting gravitational harmonies. Their void drives operate on perfect resonance. We'll show them what happens when you introduce jazz to quantum mechanics. Zixtal watched in fascination as more innovations emerged. Humans didn't simply use technology. They played with it, challenged it, combined it in ways that defied conventional wisdom. Every solution carried a touch of artistry. Every defense system incorporated elements of music or dance or visual poetry. Now you see why they feared us, Sarah said softly, noticing Zixtal's observation. We don't just think outside their boxes. We transform the boxes into something else entirely. We take their rules and turn them into suggestions. Their boundaries become our canvases. Through the facility sensors, they detected the first signs of the returning Nexus fleet. But now the humans didn't show fear, only fierce anticipation. They had spent 15,000 years dreaming. Now it was time to show the galaxy what dreamers could do when they finally awakened. "Ready all systems," Marcus commanded. "Let's show them what happens when you challenge human creativity." Around them, the facility hummed with possibility. 15,000 years of human potential about to be unleashed upon an enemy that had never learned to dream. The void between stars erupted with impossible light as the Nexus fleet emerged from quantum space. 100 ships moved in perfect geometric formations, their black hulls absorbing all light except for the cold blue glow of their void drives. Inside the facility's transformed command center, Marcus Wong watched the tactical display with calculated calm. "They've adapted their formation based on our previous encounter. Just as expected." "Perfect," Michelle Zhang whispered, her hands moving through the holographic interface like a conductor before an orchestra. "They're thinking linearly. Time to introduce some chaos theory." The facility's outer shell rippled with crystalline energy, now fully integrated with human neural patterns. Sarah Chen stood at the central console, her mind merged with the facility's systems through the interfaces Dr. Rodriguez had designed. "All sections report ready," Sarah announced. Jum's visual distortion fields are active. Michelle's gravitational harmonics are at full power. Alina's neural networks are operating at peak efficiency. Zixtal and Linva watched in wonder as the humans orchestrated their defense. The facility didn't just fight. It danced, its responses flowing like music made manifest in space. The first Nexus attack came as a synchronized wave of void energy designed to disrupt normal spacetime. But the facility's shields didn't try to block the attack. They absorbed it, transformed it, and turned it into art. "Now," Marcus commanded, "show them what humanity has dreamed up." Jun Park's distortion fields activated, turning the facility's outer shell into a cascade of fractals. Each pattern contained a fragment of human consciousness, broadcasting thoughts and emotions that the Nexus's logical systems couldn't process. The void ship's perfect formation wavered. Michelle's gravitational symphony reached out into space, disrupting the quantum harmonics that the Nexus's void drives depended on. Their engines began to stutter and desynchronize, like instruments falling out of tune. "They're adapting," Marcus noted as the Nexus ships shifted strategies, switching to their secondary attack pattern. "Good," Sarah smiled. "Let them adapt. Every adaptation brings them further from pure logic and closer to creativity." "Elena, activate the quantum consciousness mirrors." Dr. Rodriguez's innovation sprang to life. Crystalline structures that reflected the Nexus' own thought patterns back at them, but subtly altered by human neural patterns. The hive mind began to experience something it had never encountered: imagination. The battle transformed into something beyond traditional combat. The facility's defenses moved like poetry written in light and shadow, each response containing elements of art, music, and dance. Human consciousness flowed through crystalline matrices, turning cold equations into living dreams. "Their central coordination is breaking down," Linva reported, their crystalline form vibrating with excitement. "The hive mind can't maintain coherence." The Nexus ships began to move erratically, their perfect geometric patterns dissolving into chaos. Some tried to retreat into quantum space, but Michelle's gravitational harmonics had turned their escape routes into recursive loops of spacetime. "They're experiencing individual thought for the first time," Dr. Kim observed from his biological monitoring station. "Their hive mind is fragmenting into separate consciousness streams." Through the facility's sensors, they watched as the mighty Nexus fleet fell into disarray. Ships collided as their synchronized movements failed. Void drives overloaded as they encountered patterns they couldn't compute. The cold blue light of their engines flickered and died. "Send the final movement," Sarah commanded. Michelle's hands danced through the air one last time, sending a wave of pure human creativity washing over the remaining ships. It carried memories of sunsets, the sound of laughter, the joy of discovery, everything that made humanity more than mere logic. The Nexus fleet hung motionless in space, their systems overwhelmed not by superior firepower, but by the introduction of dreams into their perfect mathematical universe. They're not destroyed, Sarah noted softly. They're awakening, just like we did. Around them, the facility hummed with triumphant life, proof that humanity's greatest weapon had never been destruction. It had always been the power to imagine something new. Starlight danced across the facility's crystalline surface as the last echoes of battle faded into silence. The transformed Nexus ships hung in space like newly awakened dreamers, their cold blue engines now pulsing with warmer, more organic rhythms. Inside the command center, Sarah Chen stood with Zixtal, watching as the first communication signals arrived from the former enemy fleet. The messages weren't the perfect mathematical patterns of before, but rather tentative attempts at artistic expression. "They're sending poetry," Michelle Zhang announced from her station, her hands still moving gently through the holographic interface. Quantum algorithms transformed into verses about experiencing individual consciousness for the first time. Dr. Rodriguez monitored the neural feedback from the facility systems. The integration is stabilizing. The Nexus ships aren't just mimicking creativity. They're developing their own. Each vessel is becoming a unique consciousness. "Not weapons," Sarah said softly, turning to Zixtal. "That's what the ancient species never understood about us. Humans aren't weapons. We're catalysts for change." The facility continued its own transformation. What had begun as a preservation chamber had evolved into something entirely new. The stasis pods that still held sleeping humans now pulsed with possibilities, each one promising new dreams for a galaxy that had forgotten how to imagine. Marcus Wong approached with a tactical update. "The collective fleet is responding to our signals. More ships are arriving, not just military vessels, but research ships, cultural exchanges, diplomatic missions. Word is spreading about what happened here." Through the facility's enhanced sensors, they could see the truth of his words. Ships of all designs and origins were emerging from quantum space, drawn by the story of how human creativity had transformed an unstoppable enemy into something new. "We should wake more of our people," Dr. Kim suggested, studying the biological readings. "Not all at once, but gradually. The galaxy needs to learn to dream again, and who better to teach them than humanity's artists, scientists, and innovators?" Jun Park's latest artwork flowed through the chamber, a visual representation of the facility's new purpose. No longer a vault for sleeping weapons, but a school for awakening minds. "The ancient species feared change," Sarah explained to the gathered collective representatives. "They saw our creativity as a threat because it transformed everything it touched. But transformation doesn't have to mean destruction. Sometimes it means evolution." Linva's crystalline form sparkled with new understanding. "You never needed preservation. The galaxy needed it, needed time to realize that progress requires more than perfect logic." The facility's systems hummed with agreement, human consciousness, and crystalline technology, now working in perfect harmony. Through the neural networks, they could feel the former Nexus ships beginning to create their own art, their own music, their own dreams. "We'll need to build more than just defenses now," Alina Rodriguez said, already sketching plans in the holographic interface. "Schools, laboratories, art galleries, places where different species can learn to merge technology with creativity." "The collective stands ready to help," Zixtal announced, their form glowing with enthusiasm. "We came seeking weapons and found teachers instead. The galaxy will never be the same." Sarah smiled as she watched more ships arrive, each one carrying beings eager to learn what humanity had to teach. Change was always inevitable. The only choice was whether to fear it or embrace it. We chose to dream through the dark times, waiting for a moment when the galaxy was ready for transformation. Through the facility's windows, they could see the stars shining more brightly than before, as if the very fabric of space had been awakened by human dreams. The former Nexus ships were creating their first works of art, void energy sculpted into shapes that defied mathematical logic but spoke to the soul. Tomorrow's dawn will be different, Sarah said, watching new possibilities unfold before them. And that's exactly as it should be. After all, what is human nature if not the endless drive to imagine something new? Around them, 15,000 years of preserved human potential continued to awaken, ready to teach a galaxy that had forgotten how to dream exactly why the ancient species had called them the most powerful force in existence, not because they could destroy, but because they could create.